It has been quite some time since we last did a One Piece Reddit discussion, so here we are yet again. It looks like I am being faded into oblivion, but that is simply the sunlight coming into my apartment. So, without further ado, this is the theory we have today: the significance of the weapons trafficking subplot. This has been going on since Dressrosa. Ever since Sabo was introduced, they brought up the revolutionaries wanting to go after weapons, and it makes sense, right? Revolutionaries, they need weapons, they want to fuel outside wars against the government. It all makes sense, but what is their end goal? What are they aiming towards? Are they simply trying to liberate every country they see, or is there greater meaning behind it? Today's theory is coming to us from a Reddit user by the name of KuroiSNY. I'm gonna link this theory down below so you guys can check this out and like it, upvote it, comment on it yourself, but I am simply going to be the mediator. I'm going to be reading it out to you guys and presenting to you their theory. So, he also credits somebody else too, so check them out, I guess. We first learned of the weapons trafficking plot in Dressrosa, when we found out that the reason the revolutionaries had come to Dressrosa was to investigate this weapons trafficking network. And then he has a bunch of evidence here as well that you guys can see, so I'm not going to go by it. Sabo explained at the time that they had discovered that Dressrosa was the point from which the weapons were being shipped for the black market sale. However, it seemed like the weapons were being produced elsewhere. After Dressrosa, we saw Koala approach Dragon with the report of these findings, noting that the weapons seemed to contain a special kind of metal. In response, Dragon asked Koala if she's ever heard of the drunken iron ore. And the best part about all of his references here is that these are all manga panels. This isn't like anime filler. It's not random fluff they throw in at Toei because they needed a couple of extra seconds in the episode. This is actually canon. This is all manga representation here. We now know that this drunken iron ore is like sea stone, a rare mineral that is found in the land of Wano. This connection was confirmed to us when Tama pointed out Udon to Luffy at the start of Wano. It was later explained that the slave quarries and factories of Wano were being used to produce weapons that were traded in exchange for smile fruits produced by Caesar. This was the main reason why CP0 came to Wano. Following the fall of Doflamingo, they no longer had their proxy to hide behind and found themselves having to negotiate with Orochi directly. Which connects back to Dragon's words following Koala's report. He comments that the fall of the Don Quixote family would have wide-reaching effects. Countless countries became involved in the network, and the world government would not sit back and allow this to ruin their scheme. And this is why at the end of Dressrosa, you had all those pirates, all those like nameless pirates, go after Luffy and his grand fleet, only to be destroyed by Fujitora. They came after them because they got rid of Doflamingo. How they got there in just 3 days is kind of beyond me, but yes, they tried to attack Luffy because they lost their weapons dealer. So moving on, he says, however, things were not so easy to negotiate. Orochi was overconfident due to having Kaido's backing and demanded something that they could not agree to, Dr. Vegapunk. There was no way that the world government would agree to hand over one of their most valued assets in exchange for another. We don't hear much about this subplot for a while after this moment, but it comes up again out of context later. Many may have noticed the curious detail in 1028, in which it was stated that the world government only planned to invade Wano in the unlikely case of Kaido's defeat. Why is it that they would only invade if Kaido was defeated? Well, simply because they hope to maintain this business deal with him, and Wano is the source of the weapons that they want. So I'm gonna make a quick note. Personally, I feel like this could be true. They could want to invade Wano for the weapons after Kaido was defeated. But also, you have to remember, Kaido is a Yonko, an Emperor of the Sea. He controls many pirates underneath his thumb. So why would you want to fight Kaido when he's at full capacity? Would you not wait until after Kaido is defeated to come in and swoop up the victory? Kind of like what they did at Alabasta, where Luffy defeated Crocodile, and then they came in and then they were like, oh, whoa, look at this. Smoker defeated Crocodile. I feel like, yes, they want the weapons and they want whatever agenda they have in Wano, but they would also want to arrest and take down Kaido, quote unquote, themselves. And I wouldn't put it past them to try and do it here as well. We gotta remember, the Marines are here in Wano. They are arriving very shortly. So once Kaido's defeated, I would not be surprised if a couple of them come in and say, hey, Luffy, we know you defeated Kaido, but can we take him home? Can we take him to Impel Down or something? They want to take that victory for themselves. But yeah, I also agree, subplot is very important. They need these weapons to wage their war against Dragon, whose influence is ever increasing. This same implication can be found again in the more recent chapter, 1044, in which the Gorosei can be seen worrying that they have enraged Kaido. This is likely to be because they now have ruined their prospects of a renegotiated deal. It seems that before the events of Wano really kicked off, Kaido was also making preparations to renegotiate this deal. Although Doflamingo had fallen, it seems that he already had a replacement middleman in mind. As for who this replacement might be, I've thought about it for quite a while, and I think I know exactly who this would be, and it's someone familiar. I believe this replacement would or will be Wapol. And I love this reference right here because you could see the Gorosei do not want to work with him. They're like, yo, this guy's weak, he could be defeated by literally anybody, and he's just a shady businessman, which really just fits Wapol. So Wapol was revealed to become a noble again through his cover story. Supposedly, it was granted to him because of his success at starting a toy-making business using the substance made with his ability, known as Wapol Metal. It's cover stories like this that start as kind of like a meme or a gag, and then eventually end up back in the main story as a major plot point. Whether or not he does become that middleman, he is in the reverie, he is a world leader right now. So it just goes to show how important some of these cover stories actually are, and that is why I am paying very close attention to the one we are currently at with German 66, and I'm also hoping that Enel's cover story makes a comeback, but that would be absolutely ridiculous. I could see Enel's cover story becoming a movie or OVA, but I cannot imagine he would come back to the story with a bunch of robot moon warriors. But that's a different theory for a different day. Back at the Reverie, Vivi questioned how Wapol had regained his noble status, and Wapol responds by laughing and saying, "Interesting, isn't it? Yes, this is quite interesting. Running a successful toy factory hardly seems like something to be made a noble for. But if he has really good material that, they mentioned it beforehand, how strong his metal actually is, I could see the government eyeing him down to make weapons later on. Or maybe he's part of the black market, if it hasn't already been confirmed. Perhaps then, Wapol was not granted nobility for his success at making toys. He was granted it for providing the world government with what the toy factory is a cover for: weapons production. We see in Karibu's story that there are weapon factories in what seems to be an evil drum kingdom. Wapol would be the perfect replacement to Doflamingo as the middleman in this trafficking network. He is a noble, so no one will question him, and he already has a whole business set up as a cover for the weapons trade. This now brings us towards the conclusion. Going back to the beginning, it's important to remember that investigating this weapons trafficking network was the main reason why the revolutionaries were in Dressrosa. It is their best interest to ensure that this network is dismantled entirely. We already know that Dragon initially planned for the Reverie to be the stage on which he would declare open revolution against the Celestial Dragons, but that has not worked out, or at least we haven't seen it happen yet. What better alternate way to make this declaration than to dismantle this weapons network? It seems to me that it is highly likely that the revolutionaries will make some move on Wano in the finale or aftermath of the arc in order to prevent the world government maintaining control of the source of weapons. This would represent a victory of huge significance before the final war. It seems now that the world government will not wait to see if Kaido will be defeated. They already think that the deal is irreparable. So it's most likely that they will now make a move to take sole control over the source. Even if one invading fleet is repelled, they're not likely to give up easily. In the event that they do somehow find a way to renegotiate the deal with Kaido, Dragon would likely take measures to ensure that this isn't possible. Back in Drum Island, we got a short flashback in which Wapol mocked countries taken down by the revolutionaries. Wapol's ironic end. To conclude, the weapons trafficking plot may be the trigger for the first post-Wano conflict concerning Wano itself. The world government will likely move to take direct control, and that is something that the revolutionaries will attempt to prevent. Wano may end up flying under their flag, which would be absolutely massive. And the reason I say that is because we've had countries in the past where the revolutionaries will take over and then they fly under their flag, but we've never had a major country where Luffy and his crew were there, they liberated it, and then afterwards they fly with the revolutionaries. So far, whenever Luffy and his crew help out a nation or a country, they go back to being part of the world government. Even Fishman Island is a good example, where Luffy liberated them from Big Mom and Hody Jones, But at the end of the day, they're still going to the Reverie. They still have that voice at the world government stage. So it would be very interesting if by at the end of Wano, instead of them rejoining the world government after 800 or so years, they say, oh, you know what? We're not going to join back at that stage. We're going to go with the revolutionaries. We're going to directly oppose you guys. And I think that is a really tough move to make as a country. And that's solely because you're going to have no help from the world government. You are their antagonists. And yes, Wano is a country full of really strong samurai, and I wouldn't want to mess with them. But if the world government needed something from Wano, and they were directly opposing them, and now that they don't have Kaido and Orochi there, they can simply just attack Wano whenever they wanted. So joining the revolutionaries isn't the easiest decision to make. And that's why, at the end of the day, a lot of countries that Luffy helps liberate, like Dressrosa, Alabasta, Fishman Island, that is why, even though they're under Luffy's, quote-unquote flag and protection, and their friend, they still go back to being part of the Reverie, being part of the world government and those countries. They can't simply just say, hey, you guys didn't help us, so we're gonna bounce on y'all. It's not an easy decision. But Wano is unique because they haven't been a part of the world government for, I think, 800 years, 900 years, the Void Century. Alright, so now time to look at some of the comments. So this first one says, holy S, this is so well put together and it makes so much sense. I almost feel spoiled. Amazing work. I do have to give a lot of kudos. This guy used a lot of references. He made a lot of really good points, and never once did he really jump out of the spectrum. Everything he said here, I could see happening. I don't have to twist and bend the narrative to make this fit. So I could definitely see this happening, and if it doesn't, that's fine too. But it is really well put together. Okay, this is actually a very good theory. Been a while that we've had one that's been worthwhile. Although there is one question in mind, and it's related to who Wano will fall under control of. The world government would likely be out of the question, and the revolutionaries taking control is also plausible. But then, we would essentially need to see what Luffy would do, since he's been in the country for multiple weeks and has been one of the main catalysts for taking on Kaido and liberating Wano. And then this guy says, the Kozuki clan under the protection of Straw Hat Luffy. And this is what I agree with. Because at the end of the day, Momonosuke is going to be the man in charge. He has his retainers. He's going to look back at all the scabbards and ask for their opinions. And not a single one of those men would blink at the fact of Luffy becoming their protector. After he beats Kaido and frees Wano, I highly doubt anybody would be opposed to Straw Hat having a really huge role or having a flag on the country. Who would be against that? Like, let me know in the comments. Who would say no? I don't want Luffy being a part of Wano. But yes, it goes back to what I said earlier. I can see Luffy being their protector, but I can also see Wano potentially wanting to rejoin either the world government or just stay independent. But the main theme of Wano that they've been mentioning since the very beginning is that they want to open the borders. They want to join the world again. And what better way to do that than to hop back in to the Reverie, to the world government stage, becoming one of those countries that define the world. But also they could do that by joining the revolutionaries as well. So it could go either way. But I really just don't see them being completely independent. And while they can join Luffy, it doesn't make a lot of sense as to why they would only stick with Luffy. They have to pick either the world government or the revolutionaries. There is no in between. There is no third Luffy option. Luffy isn't trying to become the ruler of the world. He's not trying to take countries down under his wing. Maybe Zunisha will help in preventing the world government from conquering Wano. I thought she was there to resolve the fire plot by spraying water and saving everyone, until Raizo stole the show. Which, at the end of the day, Raizo used Zunisha's water to do that. Zunisha was literally right there. I do not see why Zunisha couldn't have just done that and saved Raizo the trouble. But yeah, that's besides the point. I thought that was really silly. Like, I read the chapter, I was like, oh, that's so hype. And then afterwards, I was like scratching my head and I was like, wait, Raizo used Zunisha's water. It took everything out of him to do so. Whereas Zunisha, who was literally right there, right next to him, could have done the same thing with little to no effort. It was just kind of silly, but it is what it is. It's kind of weird that she came to Wano just to say she feels Joy Boy's presence, or did she actually do something that I am misremembering? Maybe she'll help maintaining his wishes by helping Wano stay free and out of the world government. That's not the case. Wano wants to be free, but they also want to open their borders. They want to not be isolated from the world. They want to partake in the world. They don't even get the news. Birds don't even travel over there with newspapers. And they want to change all of that. So they have to join the world. They want to remain free, but they don't want to stay completely independent. It's like real world Japan. Japan was shut off from the rest of the world for many centuries. And then they opened up the borders and it became part of the world again. They joined this stage and talked to other leaders and started trading around the world. And I feel like that's what Wano, I mean, obviously that's what Wano is based off of, and that's what they want to do. So whether or not they join the world government is the main question. Is it the world government or the revolutionaries? But also, Zunisha could definitely destroy all the fleets. And to be honest, there's not a singular member in those fleets that we have seen thus far that would pose a threat to the people of Wano, Luffy, the Straw Hats, the Scabbards, the Samurai. Like, so far, it's really just a couple of CP0 agents, which we've seen them before. They're already on Onigashima. And then you have random marine fodder who are on the ground. So unless there's an admiral hiding in the bushes, unless there's more CP0 agents in those ships, I cannot see these guys actually being a threat that requires Zunisha per se. I feel like the regular samurai and the battle-worn Straw Hats could take on an army of nameless marines. But that's my personal opinion. I really liked everything I read here up until the last line. Following the deposition of Kaido, the happy ending for Wano is for the rightful ruler Momonosuke to become shogun and reinstate the Kozuki family line in the throne. They should be flying no flag but their own. Even out of gratitude, they wouldn't replace the flag of one outside influence with another. If they raise any flag at all, it will be the Kozuki crest. I know you weren't being literal about the flag waving, but symbology like this is very important in One Piece. Going back to Drum Island, it was Wapol's mockery of Chopper and Hiroku's flag that made Luffy truly angry at him. And the Daveback fight at Eni's lobby, even in Fishman Island, the symbol of a flag and how it's treated has always carried tremendous weight. I agree with this, but they can have their own flag but still be a part of the world government or the revolutionaries. Just because they join them doesn't mean they have to tear down their flag per se. Maybe not the best example, but an example of this is at Fishman Island when Luffy tore down Big Mom's flag and then he put up his own in its place. And then lo and behold, Fishman Island was still invited and saved a seat at the Reverie. Just because they have one flag doesn't mean they can't be a part of this overarching organization like the world government or the revolutionaries. So they can still have the Kozuki crest. I really doubt Dragon or an admiral would go over here and say, hey, you better take down those markings or else, you know what I mean? That would just seem a little bit silly. And I feel like while this guy's mentioning that Wano doesn't want outside influence, that's not entirely true. They want outside influence. They want to open the borders. And I feel like this is the story that Oda's kind of been pushing on us. A good example is Fishman Island, another country that dealt with being isolated, and the few outsiders they did have were really bad people. Fishman Island, for a good example, had a bunch of humans going to it and kidnapping mermaids and stealing them, selling them as slaves. And Fishman Island, as a result of that, isolated themselves. They kept away from human contact. And then after Luffy showed up, after he liberated the country, they're now able to go above ground, talk to other people. They're more welcoming towards humans now. They closed off that divide. They did not let the actions of a few outsiders affect their future prospects and what they think of everybody else. Because Wano had a couple of bad eggs like Kaido, Orochi, and whatever pirates came here beforehand, doesn't mean they should stay shut off and kick off every other pirate or person that comes to this country. That's not really the story that Oda has been putting forth to us, and that doesn't seem like the narrative that he wants to go with, in my opinion. I could be totally wrong, and who knows, maybe by the end of Wano, I'm completely devastated, and Momonosuke says, you know what? They were right, we're closing down these borders. No more people coming into Wano. We're now only influenced by ourselves. That would be a giant plot twist, but I do not see that happening. Wano wants to join the world stage again. They want to open the borders. They want to become part of the world. And we'll look at one more comment here. There is still the mystery of why Wano closed its borders off in the first place. Why it is so hard to reach. And it's not an island people can just stumble onto. Why did Oden lay such an emphasis on opening its borders now? how does it tie in with what Roger and Odin saw at Laugh Tale? According to Sengoku, why is it that every great pirate has some history with that island? What did Big Mom mean when she said, is the One Piece here as well? Yeah, I don't believe Wano's significance will end with the raid. Wano is a country that was mentioned way back in Thriller Bark, and even after Luffy and his crew leave, Wano will still play a role in the story going forward. I feel like this is true for almost every island that Luffy visits. Almost every island he visits has a lot of history behind it that we don't quite know yet. Alabasta being a good one because it houses one of the ancient weapons. We have Skypiea, we have freaking Enies Lobby. Like every island Luffy visits has some part to play in the Void Century in a big regard, or so I feel. Another good one is Fishman Island with Noah's Ark, you know? And here we are in Wano, and this is a country that supposedly closed off their borders for a threat. And now they have poneglyphs, they have the people who made the poneglyphs here. There is so much history. And the fight versus Kaido will not be what explains all of it. It will be post-Wano. It will be Luffy and his crew recovering, hanging out with the samurai, and learning its history that will uncover all of these secrets. So, with that being said, thank you guys so much for showing up. My name is Sai, and this was today's One Piece discussion. I'm gonna link it down below. Make sure to share some love. Let me know what you think about this theory down below. Do you think I was right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you agree with the theory? Do you think the revolutionaries will take over Wano? And does it look like I am fading into heaven because it is so dang bright in this apartment? With all that being said, cheers guys. Stay tuned for the next chapter of One Piece. I have a Discord down below if you want to join that. It would be super cool if you came by, said hello. I also have a Twitch stream, which come by and say hello as well. And I have a second YouTube channel. Everything, like you guessed it, is down below. So thank you for coming in, and I'll see you guys next time.